We've been reporting this morning about how Arizona will get something out of a $1.4 billion opioid settlement from grocery and pharmacy chain Kroger, which owns and operates Fry's stores here in Arizona. This money comes from a lawsuit filed by 33 states against Kroger, filed because of the part that Kroger allegedly played in the opioid crisis. But when I say Arizona will get something, I don't mean that the moms, dads, sons, and daughters of the Arizonans who were killed but lost to overdoses are coming back anytime soon. And when Kroger says as part of the settlement that they're not admitting wrongdoing, there is reason to question their level of wrongdoing and the level of wrongdoing of other pharmacies, pharmaceutical companies, and doctors. I say that because of the data that was just shared by the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, which shows that the number of prescription opioid pills shipped in the U.S. in the second half of the 2010s decreased sharply, while at the same time the nationwide overdose crisis got worse. The decline in painkiller prescriptions happened after state and federal governments tightened prescribing guidelines, and state, local, and tribal governments sued the industry over the toll of the addictive drugs. A judge ordered the U.S. DEA to share that with the plaintiffs in one case where several governments are suing drug makers, distribution companies, and pharmacies. The governments assert that the companies should have done more to stop the flow of opioids when they saw that more than what was necessary to address legitimate pain control was flowing to pharmacies and patients. The DEA's data shows that during the peak of shipments in 2010, nearly 16 billion opioid doses were moved, but by 2019, only 8.8 billion dosage units were shipped. Just over half as many doses as the peak of shipments at the start of the 2010s, and yet the number of deadly overdoses continued to climb. That can be blamed on the illegal drug dealers filling the gap because as prescription drug shipments decreased, illicit opioids, particularly heroin and illegally produced versions of fentanyl, increased. So who do we blame for all these dead Americans? Unfortunately, as a recovering alcoholic who did his fair share of illicit drugs, the answer is all of us. But mainly the blame lies with the addict themselves, ourselves. And until we're ready to get clean, the drugs, illegal or legal, will keep flowing because there are billions still to be made. And speaking of billions, the billions that have come from governments suing pharmaceutical companies and pharmacies isn't fixing our crisis either. Proof comes here in Arizona when Access suspended payments to more than 100 registered Medicaid providers working as rehabs when they weren't actually rehabs at all, and defrauded the state of hundreds of millions of dollars in false medical claims, and left addicts and alcoholics dragged off of reservations wandering the streets of Phoenix. There's a free solution out there, by the way, and it happens in 12-step meetings across the country and across Arizona. And it starts with admitting that, hey, as an addict, you're mostly at fault.